Fine. I'm gonna get a little preachy right now. We have a little bit of a sermon. Where were you guys on Monday last week? No, Monday this week was Cholomoid. No, sorry, it's Yontif. Monday before that, where were you Monday, 10 days ago? Where were all of you people? We tried to do Corbon Pesach. In years past, mostly I stayed around my house in contact with the usual people trying to bring Corbon Pesach. Calling people. Used to be I called Rabbi Glick, but who's a little bit busy now. He's up to other things. But people like Raphael Morris and other activists, being in contact with them on the phone. New, are we going through with Corbin Pesach? Is it getting, how's it going with the goats and everything like that. And when Erev Pesach was Shabbos, I was in Jerusalem. So there's no way to travel on Shabbos, so I had to be there beforehand. So I'm around, waiting to go. And years past, it failed. So I realized I have to make more of an effort. I have to be in Jerusalem, even if it's not Shabbos on Erev Pesach, in order to try to be there. You remember, anybody who participates in eating Korban Pesach does not have to attend the temple the day before. You don't have to be there to bring your Korban Pesach. One person is sufficient to bring the Korbon to the temple on behalf of everybody who's going to eat it, correct? So I'm already paying someone else to bring the Korban Pesach for me. So why should I be there? He's trying to do it, and I'm just going to eat it with him. But this year I made the determination I was going to go do it, and I realized that was my mistake this year, and that was everybody else's. That was my mistake in previous years, and that was the mistake of Am Yisrael this year, which was there weren't enough people who showed up. What do you mean? It's Erev Pesach. What are you supposed to be doing?
Where's my Haggadah here? Across the line.
Hey, oh, I don't know. Do you know about Haggadah to Pesach, right? You're going to be buying a copy or later this evening, right? Right? That's my whole shtick. The whole thing. Let's bring Corbon Pesach. That I think maybe I'm not vocal about it enough about this.
Yeah. Just saying practical terms.
Yeah.
Like you can talk about various forms of assistance, but what actually needs to happen is people trying to sprint across the line.
Hold on a second. We got a question
here. I think it was 13 this year.
How many kazesim are in one lamb of Corbon Pesach? The answer is it depends on the size of the lamb or the goat. If it's old, remember it's in its first year. Okay, after 8 days, an 9-day-old lamb is really small. One right before its first birthday is quite large, and it depends on how well you fatten it and all that, what you've been feeding it. So there is no correct answer or definitive answer. Every lamb is and every goat is its own kazayas. Anyways, where was everybody? So
other side of the
Raphael Morris put up a thing saying, "Come to Kikar Tzahal." That's right outside the Jaffa Gate, that big amphitheater across from City Hall. Come there. We're going to march all to Corbon Pesach. You know what people showed up? 3. Me, Arnon Segel, the journalist, and another fellow who follows Rabbi Bar-Hayim from online, who happened to be coming from Chutz La'aretz. Well, was it? These things were publicized. What do you mean? You don't need. Okay, it wasn't connections. It's Corbon Pesach time. It's Corbon Pesach. We have to march. Everybody has to get to Yerushalayim for Corbon Pesach. It was a mitzvah. We were discussing this. You have to be there for Corbon Pesach. So I think there were a few undercover police people because some suspicious-looking characters were just sitting there waiting around also. And these undercover police are usually guys who can pass for Arabs, if not Druze themselves. So you see them. Their shirts are untucked, and they all have facial hair that's really immaculately trimmed, right? The type of plain clothes policemen who populate the Temple Mount also. You've seen them. I thought some looked really suspicious the way they were following us. I even told one police guy, these guys look like they're really up to no. Oh, no, they're 2 of ours. Fine. They're there, of course, to make sure Jews don't do anything, but whatever. So it didn't happen. Corbon Pesach didn't happen because no one showed up. And there were a few of the real diehards who got caught trying to bring their animals to the old city. Some got caught at Chizbeh on the buses. Some got here, there, everywhere. Raphael Morris himself, God bless him, was the last one caught. And he went incommunicado those last few hours. People are trying to get in contact with him. Where is he? Where is he? It's 1:30 in the afternoon, 2 o'clock. No sign. What happened to him? They didn't catch him. So we went to Har HaBayis. It was 40 people. The 40 of the usual people are there all the time. Rabbi Weber and his usual Hasidim. By Hasidim, I don't mean Hasidish people. I mean the people who follow him. And we weren't even enough for a cot. I asked, where are the animals? No one managed to bring an animal. No Kohanim in their uniform. No one brought him his Beach. So we went go through with Corbon Pesach. We could barely get 100 Jews, let alone 50 Jews. The problem Am Yisrael. Corbon Pesach did not happen. You know why? Why didn't Corbon Pesach happen? For the same reason that the founding of the Second Commonwealth and the building of the Second Temple was not the ultimate redemption. Why wasn't it? Because not enough people showed up. That's all. At least in Second Temple times, enough people showed up to build the temple eventually. They could get minimally, they were able to do what they had to do. It wasn't enough. They needed a majority for everybody. So too, you get enough people settling the land of Israel, you get a state of Israel, which isn't perfect. The more Jews you have, the more success you have. So we didn't have success with Corbon Pesach because no one showed up. By the way, I'll finish the story. Raphael was eventually caught. What happened? After they allowed Jews up on the Temple Mount for an hour and a half, I think we descended at like 2:30 in the afternoon, which is still plenty of time to offer Corbon Pesach. I was sitting around thinking, okay, maybe I have to go home, back to the family, because they're waiting to tell my daughters to get on the bus and join me, bring the suitcase. Nothing's happening, so I guess I'm going to have to go back home. And then Raphael starts tweeting out, putting on the social media. He was actually hiding in a house in the old city for a few days leading up to this, not going out that way. He could already be there before they're even looking for him. And that's where he had his animal. I don't know if it was a goat or a lamb, but it doesn't really matter. And he and his cohorts started making their way toward the Temple Mount. And they were caught at one of the unusual gates, the gates that only enemies are allowed to use for some reason. And they stopped him. So we failed. So Corbon Pesach is because it didn't happen because no one showed up. And he said this the week before. He wrote this in the newspaper. What allowed the Exodus to happen? You had enough brave Jews who were willing to what? Take the Egyptian god, the symbol of the Egyptian god, tie it to their bedposts and make it public. Until this point, as we pointed out, Moshe Rabbeinu had said, we don't know what God wants of us, sacrifice specifically. We know there's sacrifice. It might involve sheep. It turns out, yes, most of the sacrifices in the temple are sheep. How do you know most of the temple are sheep? Sacrifices are sheep. Eight sheep a week minimum. And every Rosh Chodesh, it's a whole another 7 sheep. And every Yontif, another 7 sheep, right? And on Sukkot, it's another 14 each day, right? So vast majority of Korbonot Tzibur are sheep. And then Corbon Pesach itself is also a lamb, right? Which is, the singular. So you have a problem here. They knew they were supposed to do such a thing, and Moses told the Pharaoh, are we going to start sacrificing sheep here? They're going to stone us. They'll lynch us, right? And then at the very end, suddenly changes the plan. God says, you know what? Take those Egyptian gods and slaughter them. So the Jews who were brave enough to go through with this ritual and advertise that they'd done so by applying the blood to their doorposts, basically a symbol, I believe in God, and I'll stick it to the Egyptian gods, the Egyptian regime. They were the ones who merited redemption, right? That's why it's called Corbon Pesach. God looked at the blood and figuratively passed over their houses. It means he took compassion on them. And while he's smiting every other house in Egypt, he didn't smite their houses. And they were able to escape. But this year, and every year, Am Yisrael is put to the same test. And this year, like previous years, we failed miserably. Tragedies and difficult times like these happen to Am Yisrael when they fail, when they're failing in a systemic manner. So you and I have now lived long enough to see the beginning of the next Holocaust, right? We saw a day of Holocaust on Shmini Atzeres, and we're seeing in Chutz La'aretz happening what happened in other lands of our exile before things got really bad. Now, as they say, the Holocaust in Europe was a black swan event. Normally, when the persecutions get really bad for the Jews over the course of history, what happens? No, there's a few massacres here and there, and then they expel you or something like that. You're able to run away. It's not a complete genocide. A genocide on Holocaust levels happens about once in every 1,000 years, right? Once a century, you get like a Spanish Inquisition type of thing. Or what they call it, the expulsion of the Jews from England back in the 1600s. And other things like that. Yeah, okay. So you understand that's a typical thing. So I don't think someone says there's not going to be a Holocaust in America. Yeah, I don't think they're going to rebuild Auschwitz in New York. Not on that scale. But you have to understand that New York and California and other places are not going to become habitable for Jews. Just like Spain and Germany and England.
You don't need to live industrially to.
Yeah. Yes. You don't need to.
Rwanda.
Yeah. You don't need that same thing. It also said very foolish. Okay, it shows you what this guy's thinking. The What's happening in America now in the colleges, showing that the next generation, in the universities, yeah, that sort of happened in Nazi Germany at the beginning. But don't forget, by then, the Nazi regime had already taken over the German government. He's implying that the modern day Nazi regime has not taken over the American government yet. And that guy is foolish because he's a leftist. Okay? The American regime has been taken over by those who wink and nod and help the Nazi regime. Okay? It's called the Brandon regime. May they all speedily disappear. So we have a problem. And these problems are because we are not doing our job. God expects stuff from us. He expects us to try to keep the commandments. And he's Erech HaPayim. He gives us plenty of opportunity to do it. He's plenty of chances. And we've been blowing it. And now it's getting worse. And as soon as you could see the results, so I put out that vidui for Shmini Atzeres, right? Have we done anything that the Torah demands of us on a national scale? Conquer the land, chase out the hostile inhabitants, settle the land, build the temple. Have we been doing that? And the fact is, plenty of Am Yisrael are completely detached from the commandments. And there are parts of Am Yisrael who are trying to advocate for the creating permissibility of all the worst of eras. Even that which is forbidden to Goyim, they're advocating. Right? The Arayos. The flag of Gilu Arayos, the rainbow flag, which I said years ago, that's not a thing that's saying that you're tolerant of people who are different. That's a flag saying that you do not believe in basic morality. And the Gilu Arayos prohibitions were given to all of mankind. The Jews just have more on their list than Gentiles, but it was given universally. And this is basically a repudiation thereof. It's almost a repudiation of God. And now what happens? You've seen that very flag is basically the flag of Nazism. It's all one big conglomeration. The same Gilu Arayos people are now the ones who are calling us genocidal maniacs, and therefore we are deserving of genocide. Right? That's what they do. They accuse Am Yisrael of the worst crimes and say, and therefore Am Yisrael needs to be punished for these crimes, right? Whereas the hefech is that Shabbos Zachor, which is always before Passover, tells us what? There are people who are trying to genocide you, and you will not be safe until you get rid of them. So they're the ones committing it, and we're the ones not, whereas we're the ones who are supposed to use it in our defense, and they're using it aggressively. Okay, it's a problem. Like I said, next year, I expect everybody who's listening to this now that you heard me say it, next year we have a chance to do Corbon Pesach, and I'm expecting all of you to show up. No excuses. You have to come and show up. You have to make sure that you purify yourself. And if you want to be at the temple on the 14th of Nisan, you have to go to the mikvah on the 13th. If you want to eat of Corbon Pesach, you at least have to dunk on the 14th. And you have to be ready to do Corbon Pesach next year. And you know what else? Shavuos is coming up. It's a holiday. I figured tonight is the 10th of the Omer, right? We're counting up to Shavuos. Night 50 will be Shavuos. Just to know, that day, it'll be a Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, right? Shavuos will be a Wednesday. There's a pilgrimage that day. And the ensuing 6 days also. Be ready. Okay? And there's some people, my rabbi didn't tell me this. Okay, so it means you're listening to the wrong rabbi. That's what I have to say about this. So, new Am Yisrael, we failed. And thank God we have more opportunities coming.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.